the world of wuxia, there is a fundamental split in the philosophy of power. It is the ancient divergence between the hard styles and the soft styles, the external and the internal. External styles are built on skin and iron. They are about brute force, seeking to shatter armor with thunderous, instant impact. It is loud. It is violent. Internal styles are built on breath and blood. They seek to bypass the armor entirely, disrupting the qi, using toxins and bleed to wither the opponent from within. It is usually quiet. But what happens when you take those internal mechanics and force them to react at external speeds? You get the best of both worlds. The inevitability of the internal art, delivered with the ferocity of the external. This is the strategic sword affinity dot build. It blurs the line between the hard and soft styles, and for a damage over time setup, it feels surprisingly heavy. Okay, now let's look at the big picture of how it all actually works. The logic here is quite simple. We are basically exploiting how our gear passives react to affinity damage. Our dots endlessly generate that affinity, and those ticks feed massive buffs back into the character. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of math up front, but you just need to understand the core concept. To maximize that feedback loop, we are stacking as many kinds of dots as possible. We are generating 2 different types of bleed, plus poison and fire. And thanks to the strategic sword's specific inner way, which acts as the catalyst, almost every core attack does double duty. Your Q, your R, and your charged heavy don't just apply bleed. They allow you to trigger a follow-up move to detonate them. So in this build, we don't just have constant pressure, we have constant burst damage woven into the flow. Now that you understand the loop, let's talk about the tool that makes all of it possible, the strategic sword. If you don't have it yet, head to the Strategic Sword Sanctum, just south of Qinghe. Make sure you bring a dragon key to open the pillar. Once inside, push past the militiamen to the 2nd floor, find the ledge with the blue circle, and use Skill Theft. It's pretty much the standard loop for unlocking skills in this game. And honestly, I actually do kinda enjoy these little stealth puzzles. It's a huge shame there's no reason to do them again once you've got the unlock. But I digress. So, why the strategic sword? It's simple. It's because it's the mechanical spine of the entire build. It's your first layer of dots to generate affinity-related buffs, as well as the source of your mini-bursts. I mentioned the affinity math earlier, but forget the stats for a second. Let's just look at the mechanics for now. Thanks to its specific inner way, which we will get into later, basically, your Q, R, and charged heavy all get an extra follow-up move you can trigger right after the initial hit. When you hit 5 bleed stacks, that move forces all the accumulated bleed damage to burst instantly. And quickly about your core skills. Your Q is kinda like your quick starter and your burst skill. It delivers multi-hit bleed stacks instantly and can be followed up with the detonation move. Your R is more like your reactive move. You fade back to dodge, then snap forward to force the burst. It's turning defense into damage. You can use this to dodge attacks or reposition if you can time it correctly. And your charged heavy teleports you right through the enemy, leaving a fury of slashes behind. You can use that move basically as your safe escape, or to open the fight. Also, it looks sick as And yes, you can also follow this one up with the detonation. And alongside these core skills, you've also got your standard light and heavy attacks. We'll talk about how to weave those into the rotation later though. As for the secondary weapon, you don't really need one. In this build, your entire offensive loop comes from the sword and your mystic skills. For me, I just run the Panacea Fan as the secondary weapon, but it is purely there for emergency healing. Alright, next up, the inner ways. We are focusing on 4 core techniques here: Sword Horizon, 5-fold bleed, bitter seasons, and morale chart. First, Sword Horizon. Now, this is what allows for that signature crisscrossing move after your Q, R, and charged heavy on the sword that we have mentioned multiple times now. And again, at 5 stacks, you detonate and burst. To get this, head to the Ghost Market in Kaifeng. You will have to gamble on Ni Laoshan's books, but trust me, it is worth the coin. Next, 5-fold bleed and bitter seasons are designed for dot density. They allow our attacks to trigger more dots, including another form of bleed and a poison. Combined with the regular bleed from the sword, this brings us up to 3 kinds of dots. You can grab 5-fold bleed at the Dashangguo Temple. The quest is a bit tricky, involving skipping time, but there should be lots of community signposts around to help you finish the Faltering Flame quest. And for bitter seasons? This one is hidden behind a pretty cool exploration quest leading to the Void King's arena in the Gleaming Abyss. Check the chest in the Lavender Field after killing the boss. Finally, there is Morale Chart. This technique gives us massive stacks that multiply our physical damage. It seems to only activate from direct attacks, not dot ticks. So, we use Morale Chart to incentivize weaving those light and heavy attack strings into our rotation. For this one, you can buy it directly from the Tangbao merchant at the Blissful Retreat Boundary Stone. And now, before we continue, a quick word from today's sponsor, Dreamina. Dreamina is a one-stop AI creative platform built by ByteDance, the same company behind TikTok and CapCut. It's powered by the upgraded Seedream 4.0 model, which recently outperformed competitors to rank first on artificial analysis. Dreamina is designed for creative professionals, designers, business owners, and e-commerce operators who need high-quality visuals delivered fast. Its core feature, multi-image fusion, allows you to upload up to 6 reference images to match style, character, product angle, or visual mood without complicated prompts. Seedream 4.0 automatically understands your intent and fuses everything into a polished, professional result. To give a simple example, if I wanted to create a bleed-themed thumbnail for Where Winds Meet, and my in-game screenshot didn't match the blood aesthetic, I could fix it in seconds with Dreamina. Traditional AI might make the entire character overly bloody, when all I want is the sword to have blood effects. So, I could take a clean in-game screenshot like this, combine it with a dramatic, bloody reference like this, and Dreamina would generate a perfect hybrid result like this, keeping the original pose and lighting, and only transferring the blood effect onto the sword. That output becomes the ideal base image for building a final thumbnail. If you need professional visuals delivered fast, Dreamina is your best friend. The link is in the description. And once again, thank you to Dreamina for sponsoring this video. All right, back to it. Let's now dive into the second major part of our build, the gear. The core concept, remember, is to exploit how our gear set bonuses react to affinity damage and dots. On the weapons, we're running Hawkwing. The bonus is simple. Whenever any damage triggers affinity, you get a boost to physical attack. Because we've got Weeping Blood, Poison, and Fire all running in the background, we're rolling for affinity constantly. It keeps your attack power pinned at max stacks, basically 100% of the time. For the armor, we go with Eagle Rise. This flips it to the defensive side. Dealing dot damage grants damage reduction. So just by keeping those layers ticking, you're constantly regenerating your own defense without even thinking about it. Finally, let us talk about the math that makes this engine scale. I will keep it simple. If you're new to the systems of Where Winds Meet, just think of affinity as a universal critical hit. It's a flat percentage chance to deal 35% bonus damage on any hit. Sword slashes, bleed ticks, poison drips, they're all rolling for that bonus. But here is why this build breaks the curve. The strategic sword passives. First, you've got affinity rate up. This converts your power directly into global affinity rate. Second, bleed affinity enhancement. This takes your max physical attack and converts it into even more affinity. specifically for your bleed ticks. So, your stat priority is actually pretty straightforward. You want to start with power, then look for physical attack, followed closely by affinity rate, and finally, momentum. Focus on that order, and the damage basically takes care of itself. Alright then, now, finally, it's time to put it all together in the rotation. Before you even engage, check your divine craft. If you feel like you need more dot density, pop your poison or fire oil. That sets the baseline. To start the engine, open with a charged heavy. This is your gap closer. You teleport through the enemy, apply bleed, and instantly detonate via the inner way. You are now behind them, and the engine is fully spun up. From there, follow that immediately with Q, inner track slash. This is your ramp up. It delivers the multi-hit bleed application to max out your affinity loop instantly. Now, you want to save your R, inner balance strike, for pressure. When they swing, you backstep, let them whiff, and snap forward to apply bleed and detonate. You've just turned defense into pure damage. Once the bleed loop is fully running, apply Dragon's Breath. This adds burn into the dot engine. Now you have 4 types of dots ticking: the strategic sword bleed, the fire from here, and the poison and weeping blood from your inner ways. This makes your chance to pop dot stacks extremely high. And remember the core synergy. Each dot may trigger affinity damage. As we also talked about earlier, our strategic sword passives also increase our affinity and dot affinity rate. So hopefully you're starting to see how the build synergizes multi-layeredly. Dragon's Breath does give damage reduction, but be careful. It has a static animation, meaning you can't move for a few seconds while you're casting it. You can, however, cancel the animation early if you quickly input another move. Now, during downtime, when you're out of skills or on cooldowns, you still need to maintain the flow. You just weave in light and heavy attacks. These will continue to proc your inner way dots, as well as your morale chart inner way buff. And if your stamina finally runs low, switch fuel. Go into Cloud Steps and drop the Guardian Palm. You use Vitality instead of Endurance to deal massive AoE damage while covering your recovery window. So, that is the Strategic Sword Affinity Engine. I've been having a lot of fun with this setup. Of course, the true endgame is not out yet, and we are really just experimenting with archetypes right now. I'm not sure exactly how this will perform as the meta shifts, but I will definitely come back and do another update in the future. Let me know in the comments if you have any tips, or if you have discovered any new combos I missed. And please, leave a like if you want to see more Where Winds Meet content. I've actually been going down the rabbit hole on the lore recently, looking at things like the Void King and that entire Where 1,000 Buddhas Wept questline. So if you want to see those lore speculation essays, or if you just enjoyed this one, consider subscribing. It really helps me out. But until then, see you in the Jianghu.